Here we are. It's a Monday night. The NFC Championship game is coming up. The 49ers have made it all this way. 12 straight wins. Today is the 3-month anniversary of the most recent time that the 49ers lost a football game. Is January 23rd. On October 23rd, they lost to the Chiefs. That was Christian McCaffrey's debut with the 49ers. And a week later, they won. That was Christian McCaffrey's full-time debut with the 49ers. Remember, he only got very, very part-time action against Kansas City when the 49ers lost 44-23. Anyway, it's been 3 months since that date, and the 49ers have been on a tear ever since then. 12 straight wins. It's going to take 14 to win a Super Bowl, but win number 12 will certainly be memorable regardless. I think it'll be a whole lot more memorable if the 49ers do finish the job. The going will only get tougher from here. Let's emphasize that first. Dallas was a good team, a well-rounded team. Tested the 49ers in all facets of the game. They really wanted to win. Dallas definitely treated that as their Super Bowl. They were talking about it leading up into the game, right? Dak Prescott was saying, we wanted to face the 49ers because we felt that we needed to deliver some payback for the 49ers upset win in Arlington last year. So Dallas brought their best shot. Their best shot wasn't good enough to beat the 49ers. Now the 49ers have to turn around on a shorter week. They had the rest advantage this past week against the Cowboys, but on a shorter week, the 49ers now will have to face the number 1 seed Philadelphia Eagles, who were 1 game better than them during the regular season. That's going to be in Philadelphia. The 49ers will fly on Friday. Tomorrow's a player's day off. A lot of treatment will be happening to make sure that the 49ers do get their bodies right in time for the practice week. Practice week is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Flight to the East Coast on Friday. I won't fly until Saturday. I'm going to the Warriors game on Friday night. And the game is going to happen on Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, 12 o'clock Pacific, for a chance to win 13 in a row and head to the Super Bowl in Arizona. Exciting times for the 49ers indeed. Again, this is the 3-month anniversary today from the time that the 49ers last lost a football game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And it just so happens that Kansas City is one of the teams that is still remaining in the tournament. The Chiefs are on the same side of the bracket as the Bengals. They're going to play in the AFC Championship game shortly after the Eagles and the 49ers lock horns on Sunday afternoon. The team tier charts are what I want to see, and I'm going to open them up right now because I want to see and really show you how, ever since the elimination of the Giants, and that happened on Saturday night, only the quality teams are left because the Giants were pretenders. So were the Vikings. That was the team that the Giants beat. Here we go. Let's open up the team tier chart. We're going to go full season. We're going to look at this through the lens of who has survived to this point of the playoffs. So this is weeks 1 through 18. No filters. I know filters could be a little bit more predictive, especially in the case of a team like the 49ers, which picked up Christian McCaffrey later on. Week 8 to 18 is the filter that we like to do for the 49ers. But, this is a good, bigger picture, overarching view of what the league looks like right now. 49ers, a tier 1 team. The Eagles, a tier 1 team. The Bills, tier 1, but they lost at home to the Cincinnati Bengals, who, according to this, are a tier 2 team. But that's why I like to put a little bit more weight on what's happened more recently, because the Bills built up their lead over the Bengals in the early season. Remember how good Buffalo looked to start the season? Well, Cincinnati has looked better to finish it. Kansas City, a tier 1 team, thanks to their offense, which is head and shoulders above everybody else. The 49ers, head and shoulders defensively above everybody else. And they beat a tier 2 Dallas team. So this illustrates the matchups for the 49ers, both this past weekend and looking ahead to Philadelphia. The diagonal lines represent team tiers. Those of you who are new to this, horizontal axis is offense, so you want to be further to the right. Vertical axis is defense. You want to be further up. That's why the diagonal lines represent tiers. 49ers in there with these top 4 teams. 49ers beat the tier 2 Dallas team, which in a way you could argue is like a poor man's version of the 49ers. Slightly worse defense, slightly worse offense, but in the same quadrant of the graph. Well, the 49ers now, though, are going to have to pick on somebody their own size, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are also in tier 1. So this show is about the 49ers and the Cowboys and the Eagles, though. We're transitioning from one epic playoff game to what should be another epic playoff game. But to give you a lay of the land here, this should help explain why the New York Giants down here, a below average team, right in that maybe average. They're right in the mush, right? This is the mush in the middle. This explains why the New York Giants stood no chance against the Philadelphia Eagles. This also explains why the New York Giants and the Minnesota Vikings were a game that was tightly contested. These were two mediocre teams, despite the fact that the Vikings won 13 games on the regular season. This also explains the fact, why Tampa Bay got their asses kicked by Dallas. Tampa Bay is 2 tiers below Dallas. This all, I think, illustrates what you can expect in playoff games. Of course, the unexpected is going to happen occasionally, but up until the Buffalo-Cincinnati game, the DVOA leader, and DVOA is related to EPA per play. This is based on EPA per play. But the DVOA leader in any given matchup had won that game. And Cincinnati and Buffalo were very closely situated in the rankings, so I don't think it was all that surprising that the Bengals actually did beat the Bills. All right, those are team tiers. Let's pop open the camera and let's have a fun show today. I know that everybody is settling in, getting ready for this NFC Championship. I wanted to give this game a little bit of a chance to breathe. It ended about, 26 hours ago. And then I wanted to give it a proper turning of the page to 49ers in the NFC Championship game. 49ers at Philadelphia coming up on Sunday. So those of you who are new here, we go through this position by position. Brock Purdy was efficient. And, this is funny to me that when we talk about quarterback play, people get so nitpicky and people only remember negatives to the point where Purdy was taking some criticism today that just didn't make any sense. Now, it was weird entering this game. People wanted to discredit Brock Purdy before this game started. You had that media firestorm that builds up before the first truly big playoff matchup. And the big narrative approaching 49ers Cowboys was, how much is Brock Purdy being carried by the rest of the 49ers team? It was a recycled version of what we had heard with Jimmy Garoppolo before. And these debates are just so moronic because every single team relies on a quarterback to work with his skill position weapons, with his offensive line, and with his play caller. That's the case for every single QB, including Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. No quarterback in the NFL is going to be able to go out there and perform if he doesn't have adequate support from his receivers, his offensive line, and his play caller. It all works in unison. I mean, the whole notion that this is a team sport seems to be a novel concept to a lot of people. And Purdy is a part of the 49ers team cog. He's a cog in the wheel, part of the team wheel. He's a cog in that wheel. That's all it is. Now, if he's a defective part of that wheel, then the 49ers are going to crash. And he's obviously not a defective part of that wheel because this team is still performing well offensively. And how do we verify that Purdy is playing well offensively? Well, we can go ahead and take a look at the efficiency from this past game against Dallas. Here we go. Expected points per play. This is a percentile bar. So green is going to be above 50th percentile, above average. And purple is going to be below average, below 50th percentile. Hover the mouse over EPA per play on Brock Purdy. It tells us he was 53rd percentile, 0.09 EPA per play. That's going to be a more sophisticated way of measuring how efficient every drop back was. So he's in the light green. And I'll tell you what, that's impressive for a game like the one that we saw on Sunday. This was a defensive battle. The 49ers historically have played defensive battles in the playoffs, and a number of them have not ended in their favor, namely the ones against the New York Giants. 15-13 after Roger Craig's fumble in January of 1991 that prevented the three-peat. Then there was Kyle Williams. The anniversary was 11 years ago from the day of the game against the Cowboys yesterday. And that, well, I forgot what the score of that was. I think it might have been 20-17. The New York Giants beating the 49ers in overtime, thanks to 2 fumbles on special teams from Kyle Williams. Both of those games were ugly defensive battles in which the 49ers blinked first as far as errors in the turnover column, and they weren't able to win. Now, there have been games like that the 49ers have won. Take last season's divisional round win over Green Bay as a great example. In the snow, that was ugly. It was a tug of war. It was a tractor pull, and the 49ers did yank it out at the very end of the football game. So they did not enter this game against the Cowboys completely incapable of winning ugly games. Let's not get that twisted. But there had been a history with this franchise in the NFC playoffs of suffering really gut-wrenching losses in just the type of game that we saw yesterday. And in the losses that happened, Joe Montana was the quarterback once against the New York Giants. Steve Young was the quarterback in 92 against the Cowboys. The 49ers weren't able to move the ball consistently at all in that game. In fact, even the 94 game wasn't a great offensive game when they beat the Cowboys. That was a 21-0 lead thanks to takeaways early on for the 49ers. But, I mean, you've had Montana struggle through playoff games. You've had Steve Young struggle through playoff games. 2011 New York Giants was Alex Smith struggling through a playoff game. If you know this history, then I don't see how you can complain about a quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers being plus efficiency. That's 53rd percentile. That's above average, plus efficiency in a win. Brock Purdy did this in a win. And there are still people complaining about his performance. Listen, this is a 7th-round rookie who just showed up and played an excellent defense in the NFL playoffs and didn't turn the ball over a single time, while his very experienced veteran counterpart in Dak Prescott threw 2 terrible interceptions and is now just being completely butchered on talk radio across the country and especially in Dallas. People say Dak Prescott lost us the game from the Cowboys' perspective. Meanwhile, the 49ers' 7th-round rookie did not commit the mistakes that Dak Prescott did, that level of, error. He did not commit that. And instead, he helped guide the 49ers to victory with several key plays at key junctures, with the best stat in this game being that the 49ers were 7 of their first 12 first downs, ended up 7 of 14, but that's just because they were sitting on the ball and then they punted it late in the game. You don't go 7 of 12 on 3rd down in this league unless your quarterback is doing something right. And we can go back here to the efficiency screen. 53rd percentile EPA per play, completion percentage over expectation. Purdy was accurate. Based on how far down the field he threw the ball, the analytics say that they expected a 68.7% completion rate. Brock Purdy finished 73.1%. QBR of 54.8, which is also good. 50 is average. That's above it. And you just compare it to Dak Prescott. Efficiency for Prescott in the 28th percentile. That's terrible. The accuracy for Prescott in the 30th percentile. Also below average. Purdy was above average. Prescott was below average. It was a 2nd straight season in which a 49ers quarterback at a significant disadvantage has outplayed Dak Prescott. Last year was Jimmy Garoppolo with 2 injuries. This year was Brock Purdy with 1 game of playoff experience previously under his belt. We can look at EPA per play here. Remember, purple is good. Purple is bad. Green is good. Look at the 49ers. Struggled on early downs. Purple again on early rush. Struggled on early pass downs. But on 3rd and 4th downs, the 49ers had a good success rate, 60% success rate, a good first down rate, and a good EPA per play. They got the job done. Dallas, purple across nearly the entire board. So this was a performance that the 49ers quarterback, the rookie, Brock Purdy, can be proud of. If he ports a similar performance into Philadelphia and the 49ers defense plays similarly, the 49ers are going to have a chance to win. Let me just put that out there. Let's put it point blank. If Brock Purdy can show up and not turn the ball over, which he's done so well and has impressed Kyle Shanahan so much, and still deliver some of the bigger off-schedule plays downfield, such as the famous catch to George Kittle, which was an off-schedule play. Ayuk, Samuel, and Juszczyk were the primary reads. Kittle wasn't even a read there, but Purdy found George anyway, and George made the great bobbling catch. If Purdy can maintain that kind of improvisation and off-schedule playmaking ability on top of what's happening in Kyle Shanahan's structure, while not turning the ball over, he's going to be A-okay. And that's why he's been A-okay so far. Hasn't lost a start yet in his career. Did play in a loss, but that was in garbage time 3 months ago against Kansas City. So Brock Purdy is getting the job done. And the debates surrounding him are a massive waste of time. They completely missed the point that this is a team sport. And Purdy is playing his role in that team effort, and he's doing it damn well. All right, let's move on to running back. The M&M Express. That's McCaffrey and Mitchell. I thought McCaffrey yesterday ran the ball really well, considering the fact that Dallas was running a ton of stunts early on. There wasn't a lot of room in the middle of the field, and the 49ers were trying to go outside zone, outside zone, outside zone, and Dallas had great pursuit. So there was room nowhere. Dallas was taking away the interior. Their speedy defense was taking away the exterior. 49ers were at 2.5 yards per carry in the first half. That obviously will not cut it. I talked about this on the radio earlier today. I think Mike put it up on the channel. We have my KMBR interview. The 49ers really benefited from Carlos Watkins, defensive tackle from the Cowboys, going down in the first half, because that meant one fewer valuable defensive tackle in the rotation for the Dallas Cowboys. And that meant that the 49ers were confident that if they stayed true to their game plan, which was something that wasn't going to be aggressive downfield, they didn't want to risk any giveaways, but if they stayed true to that game plan and worked at wearing the Cowboys down, they would reach their end goal sooner than they had initially anticipated, because they obviously didn't anticipate Watkins exiting the game. He did exit the game, and in the second half, the 49ers averaged 4.1 yards per carry, which is a winning difference for the 49ers down the stretch under this game. And I thought that McCaffrey had several big first down runs, and I thought that Elijah Mitchell had several quality runs. Should Mitchell have stayed in bounds at the end? Absolutely. It's a basic football play, but he didn't. But still, his run put the 49ers in a really good position, gave him a first down, and ensured that Dallas would only be able to get the ball back with about 50 seconds left. And if you're not ready to take chances, take your chances with your defense with about 50 seconds left, where the other team doesn't have any timeouts, then you probably shouldn't be in this position anyway. So the 49ers were fine with that offensive effort in that final drive. They, of course, want Mitchell to stay in bounds, and it was a teaching moment for him. But let's not focus on that, because let's be honest, Dallas was not going to be moving the ball 90 yards in under a minute against that 49ers defense. But between McCaffrey and Mitchell, the 49ers have what I think is lightning and thunder. And Mitchell moves fast too. Mitchell probably better, faster on a straight line than Christian McCaffrey, but the physicality that Mitchell has been running with has been really impressive. He's fresh, right? He missed time this season with two MCL tears. So the freshness factor for Mitchell, I think, is massively beneficial to the 49ers, because the way that he runs, the bruises that he inflicts, A, it's led to a lot of injuries already in his NFL career, but B, you don't want this guy sucking wind, running on fumes entering the playoffs. He's a fresh running back entering the playoffs. That's the best way to deal with this situation. This Christian McCaffrey remains a stud. I mentioned it on another video today. He had 6 catches for 22 yards. Pedestrian stat line until you realize that most of those catches were for first downs. The 49ers went 7 of 12. Their first 12 third downs, they converted that many. That McCaffrey was in exactly the right position on so many of those third down conversions, even with the defense crashing in on him. I mean, you hope that Tony Pollard is going to recover quickly from the fracture that he suffered. And I don't want to, be too negatively comparing Tony Pollard to anybody, but Pollard dropped the pass yesterday, and McCaffrey just doesn't drop passes. I think I've counted 1 in his entire time with the 49ers, but that reliable set of hands that the 49ers have with Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield is really special. And it's something that I'm sure has transformed the 49ers offense, because not only does he have the hands to make these catches in traffic, even while getting crunched, but Christian McCaffrey has the knowledge, thanks to his football pedigree and thanks to his work ethic, to be on the same page as the quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy have both complimented Christian McCaffrey, saying this guy thinks and sees the field like a quarterback. And if you could do that, then you're going to be telepathically connected to the QB on big third down. So that's the backfield. Those guys are really good. Kyle Juszczyk was really good as well. Had a couple bruising runs there, right? Including one that set up the 49ers touchdown. It was 6 or 8 yarder for Kyle Juszczyk. So, I mean, there was a block where he was unable. I think they had him try to get DeMarcus Lawrence. Didn't work out. Ended up being a loss of yardage. But, boy, you can't get picky. Kyle Juszczyk is asked to make so many difficult blocks on a week in and week out basis. And in this game, he made down the stretch, he made them with increasing regularity. The 49ers wore down the Cowboys with their running backs. Again, they went from 2.5 per carry to 4.1 per carry in the second half, 2.5 in the first, 4.1 in the second. The McCaffrey-Mitchell Express did leave the station, and it was operating at good speed down the stretch run of that game. Let's do tight ends before wide receivers, because tight ends are connected to that offensive line in a way that's more close. They're more closely connected to the offensive line than the wide receivers. Although I'm going to talk about Juwan Jennings, and he's also a huge factor, and he might be connected to the offensive line because that guy blocks his ass off. But the George Kittle drive is what I wrote about in The Athletic. So now now that everybody's here, let's get this up on the screen. There it is. George Kittle's bobbling catch serves as one of the 49ers' knockout blows versus the Cowboys. Oh, I needed some water. I did the Bay today. Then I did the sauna at the Dolphin Club, and the temperature differential kind of gets you on a little bit of a roller coaster here. And you need to make sure you stay hydrated because you obviously sweat a lot in the sauna. But that kind of going from cold to hot, oh boy. It makes you feel good, but it also kind of makes sure that it puts you in a position where you need to make sure that you drink some water. So Kittle's bobbling catch. This happened at the end of the third quarter. The 49ers ended up scoring on this drive with Christian McCaffrey tossing the football up into the air, as you can see right here on the first play of the fourth quarter. This was a 91-yard drive that completely changed the complexion of the game. It went from 9-9, all tied up, Dallas feeling good about themselves. They had just benefited from a 49ers muffed punt from Ray McLeod. The vibes of the game might have even been favoring Dallas for that very reason. But the 10-play, 91-yard drive, sparked by George Kittle, was the magic that the 49ers needed to get back in the driver's seat. And when I say sparked by George Kittle, the play that you see up on the screen was a 30-yard gain on first down from the 49ers' 20-yard line. Remember, they started up backed up. Dallas punted, I believe, from the 40, going in the 49ers' direction. That's a questionable decision, obviously, from Mike McCarthy, but the 49ers did get the ball backed up, and McCarthy wanted to trust his defense to get the ball right back and give Dallas a new set of downs. I might disagree with the decision to punt, but I do understand why he did what he did, despite my disagreement. Anyway, Dallas threw that all out the window when I believe it was DeMarcus Lawrence, but I forgot it might not have been, so don't quote me here. But one of their defensive linemen encroached right over the left side. Trent Williams saw it. He pointed over there. Officials called it encroachment, and that got a 1st and 5 situation to the 49ers' hands to begin that drive. And they took the opportunity, and they absolutely ran with it. George Kittle was on a first down from the 20. The catch took 9 yards. That's what I wrote about on my piece in The Athletic. He first touched it at his own 39, and he finally corralled it at his own 48. It was a perfect emblem of what the 49ers needed to beat a really good Dallas defense that, again, led the league in pressure rate, was flying around on the back end. The 49ers needed balance, and Kittle gave it to them. And on this particular play, Kittle gave them both balance and improvisation. there's a certain magic to playing within Kyle Shanahan's structure offensively, but also knowing and feeling when to ad lib. And George Kittle seems to have mastered that balance. Remember when he stole Ray McCloud's touchdown against Washington? Kyle at first was like, "What the hell is George doing? He's running the wrong route. He needs to be crossing out underneath the deep posts so that those deep posts have all the room in the world. He can't draw defenders to this spot." But Kittle sees an open space on the field. He's done all his playbook study. He knows exactly where the play is supposed to go. But if he finds that open space, he's going to improvise and he's going to go in that direction. He's not a robot. And I think that side of Kittle's personality, I mean, going past just the X's and O's and stolen touchdowns and, this play right here, he went off script. It was supposed to go to either Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, or Kyle Juszczyk. The fact that George Kittle is able to confidently go his own way only when it will not harm the 49ers team, that's, tremendously valuable. That's a true superstar quality. I don't think that people realize how hard it is to deliver in the NFL level outside of structure. Everything is so regimented. Everybody's in a situation where, they're looking over their shoulder. They're, okay, next young man up is going to try to replace my job. I have to do everything right. I mean, these are the best of the best. Every single guy on the field at every given time is one of the best players from their college team. So if you're a coach who's paid millions of dollars, prescribes a play, this is the way that we're going to run it. Guys generally like to just stay the status quo, do what the coach says. Let's run it this way. This is how we ran it in practice. The fact that we've seen George Kittle go rogue twice now in a way that has led to 49ers touchdowns. Once was a touchdown itself against who'd they play on the 24th? The Washington defense. The fact that he's gone rogue twice and delivered and had that cohesion with his quarterback as he's delivered, that's the extra little pep in the step that the 49ers have really, really benefited from over the course of their 12-game win streak. Defensive line for the 49ers. Only one sack, but another effective pass rush. And check this out. I have an illustration from NFL Next Gen Stats. So the one sack for the 49ers, as we make this a little bit bigger so you can see, the one sack belonged to Sansa Mebucom. Came on that penultimate drive. Dragged Dak Prescott down by his ankles. This comes from NFL Next Gen Stats, though, and it uses the tracking data in each player's pads. And it measures just how close on average each pass rusher was to the opposing quarterback at the time of release. The average distance is 4.53 yards, and it's denoted by this bold ring. All four of the 49ers' primary pass rushers in this game were, on average, closer to the average distance from the quarterback than the rest of the league. So 4.53 is the average. Sansa Mebucom was 3.52. Eric Armstead was 3.86 yards. Nick Bosa was 3.87 yards. Javon Kinlaw was 4.1 yards. All well under 4.53. The Dallas Cowboys, meanwhile, were all over the league average of 4.53. Odigizua, 4.57. Parsons, 4.59. Dorrance Armstrong, nearly 6 yards on average away from the QB. DeMarcus Lawrence, 6.3 yards on average away from the QB. Folks, that is a good performance from the 49ers offensive line. And by extension, this is a good performance for the 49ers defensive line because they were able to generate enough effective pressure against Dak Prescott to force those two interceptions. Somebody today said, the narrative is that Dak beat the Cowboys. He beat his own team. It wasn't the 49ers. Well, to that I say, okay, what if Dak was throwing against air in that game? How many interceptions would he have? And the answer, of course, is 0 because there'd be nobody there to intercept it. So the point is simple. The opposing defense deserves credit for takeaways. It's not just always the quarterback's sole fault and this guy's so terrible. No, you're going to throw picks in the NFL. It's obviously a function of how many. But in the case of Dak Prescott in this game, the picks that he threw were goaded by the 49ers. He didn't throw any against Tampa Bay the week before. He was sharp against Tampa Bay on Monday night, and he was extremely, extremely erratic on his way to possibly 4 interceptions against the 49ers the following Sunday. And there was only one changed variable. And that changed variable was the 49ers defense instead of the Tampa Bay defense. And, I think a lot of the story is what I put up here is the effective pressure. 49ers closer on average to Dak Prescott than the league average, and way closer on average to Dak Prescott than the Cowboys were against Brock Purdy. Although the Cowboys did generate, it's a boomer bust defense. They did generate pressure. I think it was a 45% pressure rate. On those 55% of passes, though, that they didn't get to Purdy, the Cowboys were far away. And that's what the tracking data really does verify. How about the linebacker position? You guys remember when people were saying that Tampa Bay's linebackers were better than the 49ers linebackers? How absurd does that seem now? People are such prisoners of the moment. They remember the Super Bowl for a couple years ago, and then they're like, okay, we're going to have our favorite group of linebackers here. This 49ers group is upstart. It's like, what are you even watching? Come on. Fred Warner has been one of the best in the game here for years now. Greenlaw has always been good for those who have been paying close enough attention. But Greenlaw has gone to a completely new level this season, the 100 tackle season for him. And Azeez Al-Shire, he blew up Zeke Elliott on that last play, but Azeez Al-Shire can play too. He's a fearsome guy too. It is hilarious, though, that people thought that there was another better linebacker crew in the NFL than the 49ers. And that was as recently as earlier this season. These guys are complete studs on that second level. Fred Warner took over the game. I watched the tape this morning and my jaw just dropped at how many times they're calling his name. I knew it was a lot during the game, but this was something completely otherworldly. There was an early run for Pollard, run blitz. Warner snuffs it out. We obviously know about the interception for Fred Warner, right? The tip pass from Jimmy Ward. It looked like the pick of the stick with Bowman getting that. Tremaine Brock to Bowman, kind of like Jimmy Ward to Fred Warner in this one. But it was the coverage on CeeDee Lamb in that late second half. Down the seam, Warner running stride for stride with a really, really talented 1,300-yard receiver. That was the play that made me say, okay, this guy, he's one of the best in football. It's not just one of the best linebackers. This is one of the best players in football. A 240-pound linebacker shouldn't have been able to do what Fred Warner did in that situation. All right, Deommodore Lenoir, how about this? This was the quote of the press conference. I'm going to put this one up on the screen. We'll see what Deommodore Lenoir had to say in the 49ers locker room. My hyena senses kicked in. I just jumped for it. Lenoir calls himself the hyena. And whenever he starts talking about hyena senses, you can't help but chuckle. The confidence that's been brimming out of this guy over the past 2 weeks has been something special. He had a great game against Seattle, interception there. Now he has 2 interceptions this postseason. It's wild to me to think that about 8 or 9 days ago, people were calling for Deommodore Lenoir's job. I wonder if you've ever messed up at your job, if you're somebody calling for somebody else's job. But I digress, because the 49ers stayed patient with Deommodore Lenoir, and now it's paying off. And Charvarius Ward was really good in this game too. Talanoa Hufanga missed a couple tackles for going too high. He's got to work on getting lower. But obviously, he was overall good too. Otherwise, you don't give up just 12 points. Deshaun Gibson, the guy's a veteran. He's a stabilizer back then. He's playing excellent football. And then there's Jimmy Ward playing the slot for the 49ers. And if CeeDee Lamb doesn't go off against you, Jimmy Ward is doing a lot right. In fact, I haven't seen the coverage matchups yet. I want to see these by game. Let's see what the 49ers coverage splits were against the Dallas Cowboys, because this is going to be very, very revelatory. Let's see how Jimmy Ward did. Jimmy Ward gave up 7 catches for 44 yards. That'll do. That's a good day at the office for Jimmy Ward. It's not a lot of efficiency, right? 7 for 44, 9 targets. So that's 9 targets for 44 yards given up. You'll take that any day from your slot cornerback. And obviously the 49ers may need it this weekend because they're showing up in a game where Jimmy Ward is going to be he's the veteran, right? They have several veterans on the back end, but out of that cornerback room, he is the Swiss Army knife that I think is able to deliver near the line of scrimmage and also play a little bit further away in coverage and give the 49ers the type of adaptability that is going to be very, very necessary to beat Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Eagles are a deep football team stocked with some scary offensive weapons. You go up and down through that Philly rotation, and you're like, oh, this guy can hurt you, this guy can hurt you, this guy can hurt you. They got a tight end that could hurt you, and then the quarterback can run. A player like Jimmy Ward in a nickel spot that has to be so adaptable and so versatile, playing near that line of scrimmage, but also working against short area quickness from those slot receivers. A player like that is going to be really, really valuable in this coming game. So is Deommodore Lenoir. I mean, you look at the Eagles up and down this roster, there is so much offensive talent. And the 49ers are going to need to play this game on their own terms, right? This is a game where if Philadelphia starts spreading the ball out, running 20 yards at a time with Jalen Hurts, scoring in bunches, they'll do exactly what they did to the New York Giants. Not going to happen against the 49ers because they're not the Giants, but against the Giants who thought they could capitalize on Philly's poor run defense with Saquon Barkley, they're averaging 5 or 6 a carry, but they're also down 28-0. So you can't really take advantage of that weakness. But if the 49ers drag Philadelphia into a bar fight, they just prove they can win a bar fight. Philly hasn't proven they can win a bar fight yet. And if you, by dragging them into the bar fight, you're talking lower scoring. You're talking Philly not scoring at will. And you're talking about your ability as the 49ers to then actually exploit Philadelphia's primary weakness, which is run defense. The 49ers do not have a weakness as big as Philadelphia's in run defense. The 49ers rank top 5 across the board in everything: run defense, pass offense, run offense, especially since picking up McCaffrey. There is no outlying wart. For Philadelphia, that run defense DVOA is number 21. That is an outlying wart. All right, so we've gone through the defensive backfield, and now we're talking about special teams. Robbie Gould is the best playoff kicker in NFL history. The facts say so. There's not an opinion. This is a fact. Robbie Gould is 29 of 29 on field goals in the postseason and in his NFL career. 29 of 29. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody's ever been up 25 of 25. He's been perfect in the postseason. And then remember that Dallas was on its way to taking a kickback for a touchdown yesterday, and Robbie Gould threw his shoulder in there and made the stop. I know that injured Robbie Gould last year, right? When Robbie Gould was getting in on kick coverage, but the 49ers really needed that sacrifice in this game, and that sacrifice did pay off for them. So Gould is the best playoff kicker in NFL history, point blank. He's got it. He has that title, and if that continues, then the 49ers are going to be really happy. Made a huge play on top of that. You know, it was also the anniversary of the 49ers winning in Green Bay and Gould nailing that kick in the snow. But that's the look through the position groups. It's food time. I stopped at Sam's Burgers in North Beach, where they do have the Candlestick Panorama. This is the final game. This is the pick at the stick. Navarro Bowman is running it back at the time of that picture. But this is Sam's in North Beach. I know I give him a shout out every once in a while. Emod there, working the grill today, getting my French fries ready. That's awesome. That was my double cheeseburger. And it is, you know, as Anthony Bourdain said, it's the top 3 burger in the world. It's simple. There's no bullshit. Fresh off the grill. Go check out Sam's on Broadway. I might swing back by there on Thursday. One time I was like 2 weeks ago, I sat down at Sam's and these two 49ers fans from Alaska sat down right next to me and they just like look at me and it was this kind of like small world moment. And they're like, we just saw this on YouTube. Like we saw it on your channel. We have to go to Sam's. And now you're sitting here. This is like, we feel like you're watching one of the videos. It was cool. And I always like driving people to some of these really legacy San Francisco businesses that definitely deserve it. And as you saw there, that burger at Sam's is elite on Broadway in North Beach. As elite as the 49ers, who have won 12 straight games, haven't lost in 3 months, and across the board, there was a lot of good stuff to say about the 49ers. As far as, weaknesses against the Dallas Cowboys, well, obviously you're going to want to handle a pass rush better than the 49ers handled Dallas's in the first half, but sometimes it's unrealistic to think that. The Dallas Cowboys have a ferocious front, and it has tripped teams up. And guess what? Teams that have ferocious fronts are able to just dial all that energy back and unleash it moving forward into the postseason. You're able to take it up to another level when you know that the end is near. We saw that from the 49ers in 2019. When they entered the postseason, they overwhelmed people. That pass rush hit a second wind when it found the playoffs, right? So Dallas, they found a second wind. They wanted to beat the 49ers really bad. But guess who held up? The 49ers front. The 49ers front absolutely held up against that Dallas pass rush over the longer course of this game. There was a really, really promising play early on. 49ers were driving. It was 3rd and 15. And that's the kind of down and distance that you really want to avoid against a team like Dallas or against a team like Philadelphia coming up. The Eagles, yeah, the run defense might be shoddy, but they're the number 1 sack team in football. You need to stay out of bad down and distance situations. 3rd and 15 is a bad down and distance situation. But sometimes you're able to convert it. And the 49ers, in this case, 3rd and 15 early on, McGlinchey and Trent Williams both picked up their men. That was Micah Parsons and I want to say Randy Gregory, but he's no longer on the Cowboys. DeMarcus Lawrence is the other one. It's crazy. They had an embarrassment of riches last year when they injured Jimmy Garoppolo. Randy Gregory also on that team. I know they picked up some guys to replenish, but still, the 49ers tackles held up in a straight drop situation against maybe the best pass rush in football. Brock Purdy found Brandon Ayuk for the 16-yard catch to move the chains. 49ers are going to need some plays like that against Philadelphia to set up the run moving forward. So how consistently can they deliver the kind of pass protection that they could legitimately believe will lead them to a championship? That's going to be key for the 49ers moving forward in this game. They have to deliver up front. Because if you don't deliver up front, and by the way, I think on the aggregate, they did deliver up front in this game. Let me find it. I had this as part of the screenshots. And I already did talk about this when I was talking about the Dallas defensive line. But that relates to what the 49ers were doing work-wise along the offensive line. Look at the left side. Yes, Dallas did generate pressure on a high percentage of snaps. But if their average distance away from Brock Purdy was above league average or worse than league average at every single primary position, from Odigizua to Parsons to Armstrong to DeMarcus Lawrence, well, that means the 49ers offensive line also created some really clean pockets, and Kyle Shanahan's scheme created some good bootleg opportunities. So the 49ers offensive line deserves to be commended for the chances that it did give their offense in this football game. Brock Purdy did have challenges to work through from a protection standpoint, but you expect those against the front as good as Dallas's, but he also had time. And this data illustrates that the 49ers did give him that good time. One of the plays on which Brock Purdy had time was this one, the famous catch from George Kittle, the 9-yard catch, because it took him 9 yards to catch it. I called it YDC, not yak, but YDC, yards during the catch. And you see here, George Kittle's bobbling catch serves as one of the knockout blows against the Cowboys. I got to write about that, its meaning after the game, because there was some tremendous meaning. And this is the tight end section that I haven't talked about yet. This was the George Kittle drive. He also drew that holding penalty. That nullified a Dallas sack, kept Robbie Gould off the field, got the 49ers another chance, and they scored Christian McCaffrey's touchdown, which he tossed up into the air here. You could see McCaffrey flinging that ball high into there. Kittle called for a fair catch, caught this football, and then decided to hand it to Jerry Rice, who was sitting in the front row. So that George Kittle touchdown drive was, and he didn't score the touchdown, but I still call it the George Kittle touchdown drive. That whole sequence, to me, within the larger context of 49ers Cowboys, was tremendously symbolic in such a cool way. I mean, I visited Kezar Stadium last week, right? We put out the video from Kezar Stadium. I visited Candlestick Park last week, put out the prediction from the side of the stick, the ruins of Candlestick Park. All of that stuff I did because the 49ers were about to play the Cowboys, because past connects to present. This is a big deal for everybody involved. Kyle Shanahan showed the 49ers clips, 1982, 1992, 1993, 1994. And he said 2021, said, you guys are part of all that. That's why he showed him 2021. This is serious to the 49ers. So when this rough and tough game against the Dallas Cowboys hit crunch time, third quarter moving into fourth quarter, and the 49ers manned up and said, it's time to knock the Cowboys out. It's time to wear them down. This was a classic bruise them out, wear them down performance. When it hit crunch time and the 49ers scored the go-ahead touchdown, which was the eventual winning touchdown, what does George Kittle do? He gets the football and he gives it to Jerry Rice, who's in the front row. If that doesn't move you, nothing will. If that, you're not, I don't think that you can appreciate 49ers football if that doesn't move the needle with you. George Kittle giving a touchdown ball to Jerry Rice in a playoff win over the Dallas Cowboys, given the history between these two franchises. If that doesn't move you, just go and play a video game. Just go, you play with simulated teams or fantasy football or whatever. I don't like to talk about fantasy football because it doesn't have real stuff like this. But Kittle giving the ball to Jerry Rice, oh, that's cool. That's so cool. And it's obviously in my article. How can I not put that in after the week that we had here between Kezar, Candlestick, and then 49ers Cowboys at Levi Stadium? Best part of Sunday for me was walking around the field before the game, and like a dozen people would yell down at me from the crowd. They're like, hey, Lombardi, 38-28. 38-28. They're referring to the prediction, and the prediction came back to January 1995. And people, that 38-28 resonated with people, right? Because they remember going to a game with their dad or going to a game with their brother or their family, whoever or their friend back in January 1995, or watching that game. The fact that then the 49ers beat the Cowboys in the most star-studded game ever, that sticks with people 28 years later. 28 years later, people still remember 38-28. That's why I made that my prediction. Not because I thought the 49ers would score 38 points and the Cowboys would score 28. Thought it'd be lower scoring than that. But because I thought the 49ers might win by 10. And because I thought that it was important to connect past to present. And that George Kittle drive literally connected past to present. In fact, I'm going to tweet about this as soon as I'm done with the show. Anyway, the link to this article, George Kittle catching a pass, bobbling it for 9 yards, giving the ball to Jerry Rice. The link to this article is in the comment section, and it's about to be in the chat section as well. Right there. All right. So go ahead and check it out in the chat section. It's in the description, comment section, everywhere. Subscribe to The Athletic. Check it out. I thought that was awesome. Anyway, that ends my spiel. It's time to answer some questions because we're 49 minutes in. Say hello to Mike. Mike doing a great job as always. Says smash that like button. We are 40 subs to 32,000. So hit the subscribe button. We're 40 away. What can the 49ers defense do to slow down Jalen Hurts running? Well, they could put a spy on him, but that compromises coverage elsewhere. The most sustainable way to do it is to rush in disciplined fashion. And I'll tell you what, like the 49ers did rush in disciplined fashion yesterday. There was a couple leaky runs from Dak Prescott, but that was it. And I'm going to go back to this screenshot right here. Look at the league average for the 49ers as far as distance away from the quarterback, Dak Prescott. They're all closer to him than the league average, which indicates that it was an effective disciplined pass rush. And that's what's going to best neutralize an opposing rushing quarterback. Right now, my mom in Visalia just sent me highlights of 2019. Why don't we watch a little bit of that? The Iowa State Cyclones, that's Brock Purdy against Jalen Hurts back in 2019 in college. We're going to get a rematch of that, obviously. Purdy against Hurts in this NFC championship game. So you talk about connecting past and present. Oh, this is going to be another one of those things, not 49ers franchise history, but cool little bit of history. I need to find a way to get that open, though, on the screen. So bear with me. I think a pretty cool thing to play here during the show. All right, I got it. Here we go. Drag it up in here. And let's roll it. Boom. Get this bigger on the screen for you guys. I don't have to be up there the whole time, do I? Widen that up. So Purdy and Hurts both lit up the scoreboard in this game. Here you have Jalen Hurts going deep. Oh, it's CeeDee Lamb. Oh, there's another connection. We just saw Fred Warner, a linebacker, cover CeeDee Lamb a lot better than a bunch of college defensive backs. Shows you how good Fred Warner is. Hurts over the middle. Now, this was a game where Hurts dominated early, but Brock Purdy took over late. And then it came down to a two-point conversion attempt from Iowa State at the very end. It was 42-41. Now, this game is being played in Oklahoma, Norman, loud stadium. I'm not sure how many people fit in there, 90,000, 100,000. It's a lot. There's Hurts running. We're talking about Jalen Hurts running. Going to be trying to do some of that against the 49ers, doing his old Superman impression. Cam Newton, Auburn guy, used to do that. Now, here we have Brock Purdy struggling early in this game. But Purdy in college had that moxie to him. Throw off. It's amazing how wide open the spaces are in college compared to what we saw yesterday between 49ers and Cowboys, where it was tough sledding. Well set up there by Brock Purdy. Talking about the 49ers and their struggles historically in some of the games that looked like they won against the Cowboys. Obviously, 91 against the Giants, the 2011 season against the Giants as well. Those but that was the luckiest play I've ever seen. Look at this. Jalen Hurts should have been intercepted. CeeDee Lamb catch instead. You have to wonder, does Iowa State with Brock Purdy win this game if Hurts didn't get that lucky? 49ers can hope that luck breaks in their favor a little bit better than that one. It's like the Jacoby Tart dropped interception, except it turned into a completion. Jalen Hurts going to work. Anyway, in some of those old school games that the 49ers lost that were bar fights, that quarterback efficiency wasn't of the football. So what's our score right now? I mean, this is a long highlight reel. I'm not going to be on here forever. 28-7. Let's fast forward to Brock Purdy making a comeback. Here's Purdy. We're into 15 in college. Oh, look at that, though. That's a tight window. That was 4th and 10. 4th and 10 for Brock Purdy. Well, they just showed Alex Grinch. He's now the USC defensive coordinator. All right, what are they running? An option on 3rd and goal that loses like 15 yards. All right, does Purdy bail them out of that? Terrible against the 49ers defense. It's going to look nice for San Francisco. With a lead, he does this. Are you kidding me? Forces a pass. Should have been picked off by 26 instead of was tipped into his teammates' hands. Gives Purdy a chance to tie this game. Oh, look at that juke. Oh, my gosh. I mean, I talk about his short area quickness and his ability to get away from NFL defenders. In college, Purdy was next level when it came to mobility. Finds a tight end. 3rd and goal, 29 seconds left. Oh, tight end again. Little seam route. And this is where Iowa State decided to gamble. This is the tie game. Purdy puts the ball perfectly. Now remember, this is a Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma defense, so we have to take that into account. This is for the win. Big gamble. Kicked off. So Purdy did all that to bring Iowa State back, but they couldn't get that final play. Would have been fun. Would have been a lot of fun. Too bad. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Kenny Hamilton's question inspired that. Thanks to my mom for sending it over. Watch some college ball and be good. All right, let's see. Purdy would have been a first round pick in 2019. He also might have been I don't know if he would have been a first round pick in 2019. But I do know that if he was a little bit taller, he would have been much higher up in that draft. It's a revenge game indeed for Brock Purdy. You know, you're saying that you want Purdy to run for first downs in the NFL because he can do it. There's a difference between doing it in college and the pros as far as speed goes. But the guys in the pros that are tackling you, part of that difference is they're a lot bigger. And the 49ers are already on their third quarterback. You got to protect yourself if you're Brock Purdy. You got to be really careful, because we know how it goes for guys that run a lot. They end up on injured lists a lot. So I think that's why the 49ers would rather see Purdy take it a little bit easier with some of this running. Ryan, David, I really think that Purdy can go into Philly and shock the world. I watched him when he played Hurts, and I was amazed at Brock's skill level. What do you think? Well, yeah, I don't think the 49ers winning would be shocking the world. The 49ers haven't lost in 3 months. Philly definitely doesn't want to play them. They're going to have to play them. I think Philly would have rather played anybody else. 49ers are the number 1 team in the NFL over the course of those 3 months, and that coincides with Christian McCaffrey's arrival as a full-time player for the 49ers. They're number 1 offense. They're number 1 defense. They're number 4 special teams. They don't have a pronounced weakness. The Eagles do. Number 21 against the run. The 49ers are better on paper. I think it's clear. Now, the Eagles are at home. The Eagles have a rest advantage. Because of that, the Eagles are 2.5 to 3-point favorites. Fair? Not? It doesn't matter. Vegas is going to set the spread based on what the public thinks. But overcoming a 2.5 to 3-point point spread deficit, let's put it that way, is not shocking. I don't think it's going to shock the world if the 49ers do that, especially if you know the facts that I just told you. 49ers are on paper better than this Eagles team. Now, if we want to look at the tape and the matchups, I've talked about that now for an hour. We just hit the hour mark. Awesome. Philly's got a really good offensive line. They've got a really good pass rushing defensive line. They've got an aggressive secondary, and they have weapons on offense with a mobile quarterback. The 49ers are loaded everywhere, including the offensive line, which has played really well today. Is that enough to counter Philly? Well, it's just going to depend on who is able to imprint their style of football on the opponent. And if the 49ers are able to imprint a running brand of football on their opponent, with the formula being Washington beating an 8-0 Philly team this year, 32-21, 49 runs, 3.1 per carry, not gaudy at all, but they just pounded the crap out of Philly. The 49ers are able to play the game on those terms. I think they win. Now, ironically, fittingly, whatever word you want to use, to be able to run that many times, you have to pass effectively. You can't just run for the hell of it. You have to pass effectively. There has to be efficiency from the QB position. That comes back to Purdy. Do I think he's capable? Yes. Do I think that it would shock people if he delivered at that level? No, I don't think so. I think he's capable, and I think he's shown us who he is. Yes, but the Eagles have gotten a lot better since last year, but so have the 49ers. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts, you say basically the same roster. The Eagles didn't have A.J. Brown last year. A.J. Brown has really changed that offense. That's been really big for Philadelphia. The Philadelphia defensive line has been good every single season, but the team has entered turbocharge mode because they, similar to how Christian McCaffrey was a missing piece for the 49ers offense. You put in another guy, it opens up spacing, offense just surges at a level you didn't expect it to surge just based on one player. I think the same kind of tipping point has happened in Philadelphia's favor with A.J. Brown, because now there's a lot to defend, and it's helped Jalen Hurts take the next step. And that next step has led Philly to a lot of efficiency. So the Eagles are better, so are the 49ers. So instead of a week 2 matchup, this game is now happening in the NFC Championship game. Let's see what happens. That was a tough win the 49ers got in Philly last year. A.J. Brown did have his way with the 49ers last year when he was in Tennessee. Bunch of 3rd and long conversions. I had to tweet about some of that stuff. Some Eagles fans in here? Sounds like there might be. A good question. I need to see where the Eagles rank defensively in Yak. I'm going to, I usually end my days doing some research. So I'm going to end the show here in a little bit. I'm going to sit down and do some research, and we're going to figure it out. I do my research on my other laptop. No, not on this one. This is the one that I do the shows from. We're 27 subs from 32,000. So 13 of you sub, but we still need a few more. It'd be nice to get 32,000 on the air. I don't know how much longer, though, I could keep this up. Who wins the coaching battle? Well, I think Shanahan's been here before and Sirianni hasn't, so I'd have to give the edge to Shanahan. But we will see. I did give credit to Lenore. I played a Lenore clip a little bit earlier. He entered hyena mode. That's what he said. Right here. Here's proof. Lenore's hyena senses kicked in. What does choke mean? Because I think the 49ers are better. So if they lose to a better team, does that mean choking? I don't know. They could struggle a little bit with the pressure, but choke, that's kind of an aggressive term, so I don't know. We might see some shadowing of Brown, but the Eagles have so many weapons that I think the 49ers will try to stick with zone principles and some aggressive blitzes to fool Jalen Hurts. And, with some zone coverage, you're keeping your eye to the quarterback. So you're A, preventing some of that running stuff, and B, you're also setting the table to get some interceptions. We saw the college tape from Jalen Hurts. He was throwing some picks. I know he's throwing fewer of them now, but keep it on the table. Give yourself as good of a chance to force those turnovers as possible. 49ers have done a good job of it this year. Lead the league with 22 interceptions. All right, guys, it's been well over an hour. Huge show today. I appreciate everybody. Went through everything today, and Lombardi's look back. 49ers outbruised the Cowboys. So your homework is to go and check out the article that I put up on the screen about George Kittle and the 9-yard catch, the one that he bobbled for 9 yards. I measured it. Go and check that out. Subscribe to The Athletic. Why don't you also, we're only 6 subs away from 32,000, so make sure we do that. Why don't we get 32,000 before I sign off right here? Another thing that I need you to do is sub to The Athletic. I just said that, actually. Go to my Twitter and my Instagram. You go to both spots. It's Lombardi himself on both. So follow everywhere. We're 3 subs away from 32,000. So Lombardi himself, Twitter, Instagram, hit the sub button, hit the alarm button. Mike is refreshing right now to see if we've hit 32,000. I'm waiting at any moment. I think we're going to hit it. And we have done it. We have done it. 32,000. Thank you, everybody. 32K. Why don't we go celebrate? Everybody go pop open a beer, sub to The Athletic. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Let's have some fun. 49ers are in the NFC Championship this week, so we're going to cover the hell out of it. 32K. Appreciate you all. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.